I'm Rick Horrow, and welcome to Beyond the Box Score, an inside look at the business of sports. Today's guest is USTA Chief Marketing Officer Harlan Stone. Stone is responsible for all advertising, marketing, promotional programs, and campaigns surrounding the U.S. Open. I recently sat down with him in New York. Harlan Stone, Chief Business Officer, USTA. As always, thank you for inviting us into your home. And your home gets bigger and better every year, right?
You know, we work hard at it, and it's interesting. We're almost at capacity from a ticket perspective. We sell 99% of all the tickets here. So for us, the opportunity to expand in terms of attendance is limited. What we're trying to do is not just be bigger, but be better. More innovative use of technology, more interesting sponsor activations, better food, better merchandise, all the things that you would expect. And you know, for sure, we're a premium priced product, and we try to have something for everybody. But yeah, we are a big event, no doubt about it.
All right, so let's talk about the importance of tennis and the grassroots. Since 1891, there have been 175 American singles winners, but none recently, certainly. How do you change that?
It's a synergistic concept, if that's the right word. Honestly, the more we're able to contribute to grassroots tennis, the more opportunities there are for kids to play. The bigger the funnel, the more kids playing. The hope is the more champions you're ultimately going to have. From our perspective, we're putting a lot of time and energy into 10 and under tennis now. That is a critical area for us. To get more kids, young kids, playing tennis, and we're having very good early success. They're playing on a smaller court with smaller equipment, and again, we're funding that enterprise.
Well, Harlan, what's your biggest challenge as far as getting these 10-year-olds and youngsters to play tennis as opposed to soccer, football, golf, or anything else?
I think there's been two challenges, one of which we can address and one which we can't as it relates to 10 and under kids. The challenge we can address is making it easier for kids to get started. And we're doing that by building smaller courts, using smaller equipment. We're no different now than Little League or smaller soccer fields or 8-foot hoops, which we all grew up on. You play on the small field and then you graduate to the big field. We really haven't had that until about a year ago. So we're committed to that program. Like all sports, there are just many more options for kids today than there were, and we've got to make our sport really fun. And the early returns on 10 and under tennis are good. We are grabbing a higher share of participants. We're lucky in the terms of we're a really healthy, fun, active sport, and I think parents are smart and they want their kids getting involved in a sport they can play for a lifetime.
All right, so take your crystal ball and talk about the business of tennis and the business of the USTA and tell us where it's going to be 5 years from now.
Where will tennis be in the next 5 to 10 years? I'll go out on a limb and I will say that on the professional level in terms of performance, we'll have more top 10 players 5 years from now and a world champion 10 years from now. That's just a personal prediction. That's not a USTA position.
Sure.
And I think we're very committed to something called the US Open Series. Those are the hardcore tournaments that lead up to the US Open. And I think we're in a very good place on those tournaments where some of them were, I don't want to say struggling, but some of them were uncertain in terms of their longevity 5, 7 years ago. That series, Olympus US Open Series, is now in a very good place, and I think that will continue to grow, and I think that will continue to be a big part of our story, is the continued growth, not just of the Open, but of the whole summer season.
So you're the czar of the tennis industry for a day. You're pretty close to that already, but let's assume you have absolute power and you wave your magic wand. What's the one thing you change in the industry?
That is a great question. What would I do if I think the magic of tennis is when the men and the women are playing the same weeks on the same surface. It's begun to happen. There are now a few events around the world where that takes place. But if you could figure out how to do it, I would shorten the calendar so that the best players have a chance to play in more cities on a more frequent basis because they have a longer period of time in the off season to rest. And I think as many combined men's and women's events as we can do is healthy for the sport. I am not the czar, I'm not a politician, I don't know how you get all that done, but that's what I would do.
This year's U.S. Open winners can expect a hefty payday as the USTA is shelling out a record $23.7 million in prize money. This is also the 39th consecutive year the USTA will offer equal prize money to both the men and the women. Let's go inside the numbers to see the top 5 active players in career prize money. At number 5 is Venus Williams, who's won nearly $28 million during her illustrious career. Williams has won 7 Grand Slam singles titles, including 2 U.S. Opens. In addition, Williams was one of the leading advocates of getting equal prize money for women in all tournaments. Next is the top-ranked men's player in the world, Novak Djokovic. Djokovic has earned more than $28 million in career prize money and began the 2011 season by reeling off 43 straight wins, the most in men's tennis in decades. Following Djokovic is the highest-earning women's tennis player of all time, Serena Williams. Serena's brought in over $33 million in her career, and she's won more Grand Slam titles than any other female active player. Number 2 on this list is Rafa Nadal with just under $43 million in career prize money. 25 years old, Nadal is already considered one of the best tennis players of all time, and his career accomplishments include numerous Grand Slam titles and a gold medal at the 2008 Olympics. Finally, tennis all-time career money leader is Roger Federer. Since turning pro in 1998, Federer banked a staggering $64 million in career prize money and won more Grand Slam titles than any other men's player. Including his endorsements, Federer is one of the most highly compensated players in the world in all the sports. Despite the ongoing issues with the economy, the U.S. Open prize money increased 6.5% since last year. For 3 other ways the economy is affecting the business of tennis, it's time for Bust, Boom, and Hope. Let's begin with Bust. The USTA is upset about blatant ambush advertisements posted by Stella Artois around the U.S. Open area. Stella had 15 prominent ads posted just off the Long Island Railroad, which services thousands of people daily. Heineken had been the official beer sponsor of the Open since 1992. Now for Boom. The U.S. Open generates $750 million in annual economic impact for New York City, according to a study by the USTA. The event's impact was last measured 10 years ago and was valued at just over half that total. This dwarfs the projected $550 million the Super Bowl will bring to the region. And finally, Hope. Women's star Maria Sharapova is launching Superpova, a new candy line set to debut at the beginning of next year. Sharapova is one of tennis's biggest endorsers, having deals with Nike, Cole Haan, and others. Though Sharapova's candy deal is a bit unusual, my valedictorian of the week has a more traditional deal. Novak Djokovic signed a big sponsorship with a luxury watchmaker, and he joins a select company which includes LeBron James and Rory McIlroy as endorsers of this brand. My flunk out of the week is the Tennis Channel. Cablevision and Verizon pulled the channel from its systems amidst a carriage dispute. The decision couldn't have come at a worse time for the Tennis Channel, which is in the middle of covering the most popular American tournament. Now for my final take. We'll leave the tennis courts and head for the gridiron. And one sure sign the NFL is back is the release of EA Sports' annual Madden video game. Madden is one of the best-selling game series of all time, having sold 85 million copies for more than $3 billion since its debut back in 1988. Analysts expect this year's version to be a particularly hot seller since the NFL lockout deprived football fans of their annual summer fix. EA Sports' tagline is, if it's in the game, it's in the game, a reference to making its games as realistic as possible. In many cases, it is. Gatorade's G Series has a strong presence on NFL sidelines, and if gamers pay close attention, they'll see it on Madden's as well. They'll also notice Reebok's logo on jersey sleeves and gloves, Nike cleats, and Riddell helmets. In addition, most stadiums display the proper logo of its title naming sponsor, albeit discreetly. The 2 big beneficiaries are Invesco and McAfee, which gave up their stadium deals with the Broncos and Raiders, yet still appear in the game. I'm Rick Horrow. Won't you join me next week when once again we go Beyond the Box Score?